Earlier you said that you were going to change the deadline from 50 days. So
Yeah.
what is your new deadline? What can
I'm
we
going to
expect?
make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
This is my video update on this Tuesday afternoon, July the 29th, coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia. Let's talk about some news. And we are going to start things off with Trump's announcement that the 50-day ultimatum is now 10 to 12 days. That's right. Russia is getting a 10 to 12 day ultimatum. China, India, Turkey, any country that trades with Russia, including the United States, which gets its uranium from Russia, any country that trades with Russia now has 10 to 12 days to stop trading with Russia, or else they will face 100% secondary tariffs or secondary sanctions. Call it whatever you want. Tariffs and sanctions have pretty much now become the same thing, the same weapon used by the United States of America to bully countries. So that's the new ultimatum. 10 to 12 days. Trump said that he's very frustrated with Putin. He's very angry, frustrated with Putin. He says he has good conversations with the Russian president, but then the Russian president fires at people the next day and nursing homes and stuff like that. And this is upsetting Trump. And he is now saying, you know what, forget about the 50-day ultimatum. I'm making it 10 to 12 days. 10 to 12 days, 100% tariffs. Trump said that he's not interested in talking with Putin. He was asked by a reporter about talking with Putin. Any more conversations with the Russian president? And Trump, like a 12-year-old child, said, I'm not interested in talking with Putin anymore. I'm just the president of the United States, and I need to conduct diplomacy with all the world leaders. But nah, I'm done talking with him. I'm done talking with the Russian president. He's becoming Biden. He's becoming Biden, man. Oh my God. Yeah, 10 to 12 days. Why not negative 10 days? Why not make it negative 10 days? And let's see what happens. Say I am putting an ultimatum to stop trade with Russia, or else you will face negative 10-day ultimatum. Of course, this can all go away if Russia agrees to capitulate to the collective West and agrees to the Kellogg ceasefire plan. Then all of this goes away. Yeah, maybe the collective West is getting nervous, seeing the situation on the front lines, seeing what's happening in Pokrovsk, and now they're starting to panic. We don't have 50 days. Maybe we have 10 to 12 days before the front line really collapses. So that could be why he's changing things up. Or maybe it's just the sweet whispers of 008 Keir Starmer, who convinced Trump to make it 10 to 12 days. I don't know what it is about Keir Starmer, Macron. They seem to have this influence over Trump. I don't know what it is. But man, when they talk to Trump, it's guaranteed. It's not almost guaranteed. I was going to say it's almost guaranteed. No, it is 100% guaranteed that whenever Macron and Stmer speak to Trump, his next message is something bad about Putin and Russia. Yeah, it's a pattern that we've seen play out over the last 4 or 5 months. He meets with Macron, he meets with Stmer. They tell him bad stuff about Putin and Russia. And then Trump comes out and says really, really ridiculous things. And he makes really dumb decisions that box him in. Instead of creating options and choices, which is something you should do if you're the president of the United States, especially if you're engaging in diplomacy and foreign policy, Trump does the opposite after speaking to Macron and Stmer. He comes up with decisions and policies which box him in, which take away options and choices. So we'll see at the end of 10 days or 12 days, 10 to 12 days, Trump said, we'll see what's going to happen. Will we get 100% tariffs on China, on India, on Turkey, on the United States? Will Trump place 100% tariffs on the United States for purchasing Russian uranium? Possibly, I don't know. Or will he say, you know what, now I'm kind of happy with Putin. I kind of like Putin now, so we'll make it 40 days. We'll go back to 40 days. Is that possible? I don't know. Maybe. Everything's possible, it seems, with Trump. It's just a matter of who speaks to him last. Whoever speaks to him last, that's the policy that you're going to get the next day. I said this 2 days ago when I was talking about the upcoming meeting between 008 and Trump. I said, you know what? After Trump meets with Keir Starmer, he's going to say some dumb stuff about Putin and Russia. You watch. And sure enough, he did. Oh, man. So if he actually pulls the trigger and places 100% tariffs on China and India and Turkey, China, this is really directed at China, right? If he places 100% tariffs on China, then man, look out. Things are going to get ugly in the global economy. Forget about the U.S.-China trade talks that are ongoing. that will be completely obliterated using Trump's lingo. Maybe he's using this as a way to pressure China. Maybe this is not even about Russia. Maybe he's saying 10 to 12 days because the U.S. is now currently in negotiations with China. I believe they're in their third or fourth round of talks. And maybe he thinks that he can dangle this 100% tariff threat over China in order to get China to make some more concessions. That's also possible. So what else did Trump say? He said that he loves the Russian people. He said that. And he also said that he wanted to be generous. He said he wanted to be generous with the 50-day ultimatum, but he just can't be generous anymore. But he loves the Russian people, he said. That's right. He wanted to be generous. I wanted to be generous. As emperor of the world, I wanted to display my generosity to the Russian people whom I love. Yeah, he said that he had always gotten along with Russian President Putin during a Q&A session with Keir Starmer in Turnberry, Scotland on Monday. He praised Russia as a rich nation that could be thriving like practically no other country and spoke about the massive trade potential between Russia and the U.S. Quote, I don't want to do that in Russia. I love the Russian people, he said, when asked about potential new sanctions against Moscow. You know what he's trying to do here? He's trying to upset everyday Russian people. That's what I think he's trying to do. He wants these quotes picked up by the Russian media, by Russian-speaking media, Russian language media, and he wants to upset the Russian people to make it seem as if it's all Putin's fault. Russia could be thriving. It could be trading with the United States. But Putin just messes it up. So let's get some regime change. It's actually quite a manipulative message from Trump. He believes that he's going to actually upset Russian people and get them to turn on Putin by saying this stuff. I love Russian people. I only want the best. I only want the best for Russia. As president of the United States, I only want the best for Russia, and I want you guys to trade with the United States, and you can be richer than you ever believed if you could just deal with your president, man. You know, Just get him to capitulate to us and sign that Kellogg ceasefire plan. Yeah, Trump is pretty manipulative, man. What else? What else did he say? I think that covers everything. We'll wait. We'll wait 10 more days, or 12 more days, or maybe 15 more days. I don't know. Maybe 55 more days, or 155 more days. It depends. It depends who speaks to Trump next. Anyway, what else? Medvedev and Lindsey Graham, they went at it on X. So Lindsey Graham posted on X, "I completely understand President Donald Trump's frustration with Russia's continued attacks on Ukraine, which indicates no real desire to come to the peace table. Putin has seriously miscalculated President Trump. I hope countries like China, India, and Brazil, who prop up Putin's war machine, are about to pay a long overdue price. Congress stands ready in an overwhelmingly bipartisan fashion to help President Trump in his efforts to get the parties to the peace table." Notice how Lindsey Graham always talks about China, India, and Brazil. He's focused on BRICS. Essentially, that's what he's focused on when it comes to the tariffs, the 500% bone-crushing tariffs, or Trump's 100% tariffs. For Lindsey Graham, it's about China, Brazil, and India. It's all about BRICS. There's some sort of U.S. strategy. Well, there's definitely a U.S. strategy, which is trying to break apart and divide BRICS. Lindsey Graham thinks that he can take China, India, and Brazil and turn them against Russia. Trump may believe that he'll be able to turn China against Russia. Trump may actually believe this, that he will be able, through the negotiations with China and through this 100% secondary tariff ultimatum, that he will be able to move apart China and to break apart China and Russia, to turn China against Russia, which would then help the collective West to try and defeat Russia, so that then the collective West can turn its attention towards China. In other words, convince China that the strategy may be to try and convince China to turn against Russia, so that the collective West can then defeat Russia and turn on China, right? Convince China to destroy itself is basically what Trump may be thinking, or what the White House may be thinking. Lindsey Graham is focused on BRICS. He wants to go after China and India and Brazil. He sees the threat that the BRICS are to the unipolar U.S. empire. Anyway, Medvedev, when he heard the 10 to 12 day ultimatum from Trump, he posted on X, "Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia. 50 days or 10. He should remember two things. Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. Each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road." So yeah, Trump is becoming Biden. When he says, "I'm not interested in talking to Putin," he is becoming Biden. That's Biden diplomacy right there. There was a time early on in Trump's second term as president, very, very early on, when he was listening to people like Vance and Witkoff. Now he's been completely overtaken by Lindsey Graham, the neocons, the European Union, Macron and Stmer. Anyway, that was what Medvedev posted on X. And Lindsey Graham decided to reply to Medvedev. Lindsey Graham, in one corner, we have Lindsey Graham representing the United States of America. In the other corner, we have Dmitry Medvedev representing the Russian Federation. Lindsey Graham takes on Dmitry Medvedev. So Lindsey Graham, replying to Medvedev, said to those in Russia who believe that President Trump is not serious about ending the bloodbath between Russia and Ukraine, you and your customers will soon be sadly mistaken. You will also soon see that Joe Biden is no longer president. Get to the peace table. That's Lindsey Graham threatening Medvedev to agree to the Kellogg ceasefire plan. Capitulate and surrender Russia or else. That is what Lindsey Graham is telling Medvedev. Interesting that he calls China, India, Brazil, he calls them Russia's customers. They're your customers. They're nothing else but your customers. Medvedev, he replied to Lindsey Graham, saying, it's not for you or Trump to dictate when to get at the peace table. Negotiations will end when all the objectives of our military operation have been achieved. Work on America first, Gramps. So it looks like the honeymoon period between the United States and Russia, that's over. We'll see if Putin and Lavrov and the Kremlin Peskov continue to talk about how the United States, they're Russia's partners, and they're the sane voice in all of the madness of the collective West, or the Trump White House is the voice of sanity in the insane asylum circus that is the collective West. I wonder if they'll continue with that messaging, or if they will go down the Medvedev route and realize that you cannot talk to these people. You can't talk to these people, man. You can't negotiate with these people. Anyway, let's see. Orban had comments about Ursula and the EU-US trade deal, which I will get into in a moment. But we had more comments from various people on this deal. And Orban said that Trump ate von der Leyen for breakfast. He ate her for breakfast, according to Orban. Oh boy, he ate her for breakfast, von der Leyen. And then he had a bad case of you know what. Oh man, that von der Leyen. She was tasty at first, but now I don't know. My stomach hurts, man. Too much von der Leyen. You had too much von der Leyen for breakfast, President Trump. Oh, Lavrov said that the trade deal is going to accelerate the EU's deindustrialization. Yeah, no doubt about it. Medvedev pretty much said the same thing. He said the EU is screwed. That was his comment on X. And Merz, BlackRock Merz, said that Germany is screwed. That is what BlackRock Merz said. The German economy will be considerably damaged by the tariffs. I cannot say that I am satisfied with this result. I only state, given the existing initial conditions, it was impossible to achieve more with the USA. You mean the conditions being that you guys are a vassal to the United States? Are those the conditions that you're talking about, Merz? And that you guys have no leverage whatsoever over the United States because you have sanctioned Russia and destroyed your relationship with China? Are those the conditions that you're talking about, BlackRock Merz? Yeah. Under those conditions, I would say that you guys had no other option other than to agree to whatever terms the Trump White House dictated to you. Yeah, I would say that's an accurate statement from BlackRock Merz. You guys did it to yourselves, EU. Lavrov also said that Russia is fighting the West alone on the battlefield. On the battlefield, Russia has to fight the entire collective West alone. This is the first time in history, he said, that Russia has had to do this. In other previous wars, Russia had some countries that were allies. But this time around, it is Russia taking on the entire collective West. So that was an interesting statement from Lavrov. He said in the statement that Russia needs to remain united and strong as it takes on the entire collective West. So should we get to the US-EU trade deal, which is already coming undone? The trade deal is starting to collapse before it's even started. And we already got some EU backtracking on the trade deal. Let's go this way. We are getting reports that the European Union, not Ursula's not saying this, but other EU officials came out with statements saying that the 600 billion in investment to the European Union, that's not going to happen. Yeah, that is not going to happen because according to these EU officials, the 600 billion has to come from private companies, not the European Union. The European Union does not do these types of things. And the European Union is not able to force private companies to invest in the United States. So it's already backtracking on the 600 billion investment to the United States, even though Trump was sitting there with Ursula right next to him, saying that the EU has agreed to invest 600 billion into the United States. EU officials are saying, can't do this. It's not possible. Now, if private companies want to invest in the United States for whatever reason, so be it. But as the European Union, we cannot guarantee this type of thing. EU admits it can't guarantee 600 billion promise to Trump. Let's see, 2 senior European Commission officials clarified that money would come exclusively from private European companies with public investment contributing nothing. It is not something that the EU as a public authority can guarantee. It is something which is based on the intentions of the private companies, said one of the senior Commission officials. The Commission has not said it will introduce any incentives to ensure the private sector meets the 600 billion target, nor given a precise time frame for the investment. However, the first official said that the 600 billion figure was based on detailed discussions with different business associations and companies in order to see what their investment intentions are. In other words, what Politico is saying here, what these commission officials are telling Politico, is that during the negotiations, they told the United States that maybe some private companies might invest something around 600 billion into the United States. Does that sound good? And the United States said, okay, that sounds good. But they're making it out to appear as if they never told the United States that the EU, the European Union, as an organization, would, as an institution, would invest 600 billion itself into the United States. So they're making it out as if Trump was lying. He was BSing, or he misunderstood something, or I don't know. They're throwing it onto Trump. What we said to Trump and to the United States is that we'll try to see if there's any companies that want to invest in the U.S., but we can't guarantee anything. We're not going to force companies to invest. That's what this statement is saying. We're not going to force them to invest in the United States. We can't do that. But we'll see if there's any interest. And Trump took it as if the EU told him that they're going to pour 600 billion into the U.S. So who's lying? Who's lying? Who's BSing? Is it the EU? Is it these commission officials? Are they trying to provide some cover for Ursula? Maybe Ursula, she's pretty clueless. She's very clueless. Maybe she told Trump, yeah, the EU will give you 600 billion. Who knows? She's that bad of a negotiator and she is that clueless. I can see that. I can absolutely see Ursula sitting across the table from Trump and Trump saying, we want money. And Ursula saying, okay, we'll give you 600 billion. Does that sound good? Yeah, that sounds good. I can absolutely see that. Or maybe Trump. Maybe Trump is BSing here. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, man, it is so humid. I can barely breathe. Boy. Okay, so that is the first walk back from the EU. And then we have the 750 billion in energy purchases from the United States. The energy promise that Trump was talking about. This is fantasy land, according to EU officials and energy experts, NBC, Politico, all the mainstream media news outlets. They interviewed all kinds of professionals and experts in the energy field, and they all came out with the same conclusion. The numbers just don't add up. They just do not add up. And I talked about this yesterday a bit. I hinted at this in my video update yesterday, that the 750 billion over 3 years is just not possible. The infrastructure is not there for the EU to take in 750 billion in U.S. Gas and oil. But now we're getting the experts coming out and saying the same thing that I mentioned briefly yesterday. Politico is reporting the EU's fantasy 750 billion energy promise to Trump, technical issues, limited U.S. supplies, and the EU's minimal control over imports render the pledge infeasible, experts say. So I posted on X a summary of this Politico article, and I put it into 5 points as to why this 750 billion pledge in energy purchases from the United States is not going to happen. And point number 1 is that the EU spent 375 billion on energy imports last year, 76 billion from the US, which would mean that the EU would have to triple its American imports over the next 3 years. Shunning other providers such as Norway, which provides cheaper gas via pipeline. Isn't that interesting that Politico is admitting that Norway pipeline gas is cheaper than US LNG? When just yesterday, Ursula said that US LNG is more affordable than Russian pipeline gas. How exactly does that work? How does it work that Norwegian pipeline gas is cheaper than LNG, but Russian pipeline gas is more expensive than US LNG? Someone please explain. Anyway, the experts, they are saying that taking Russian energy out of the equation makes little difference. The EU spent 23 billion on oil, gas, and nuclear imports from Russia last year. The U.S. sent 166 billion in oil and gas abroad last year. The U.S. would have to divert all its exports to the EU. That's just never going to happen. The U.S. LNG exports are not tied to a single destination and usually go to the highest bidder worldwide. Yeah, in order to fulfill this 750 billion that they're talking about, that would mean that U.S. LNG producers would have to send everything that they have to the European Union. That's not how this thing works. The EU currently buys 12% of its oil and fuel from the US. This could be raised to a ceiling of 14%, given the EU refineries can only handle limited shares of America's specific blend of oil. That's an infrastructure problem that the EU has. Another challenge is how the EU would facilitate these purchases, given that it plays no role in buying cargoes itself. The EU is not a company, said one gas specialist at a prominent energy trading house. Will they force EU companies to buy gas and oil from the US? Yeah, so you can see that this 750 billion number is fantasy. It is fantasy according to all of the experts. So the question, once again, is who was BSing? Was Trump BSing? Was Ursula telling Trump BS and Trump believed it? Are they both clueless? Are they both BSing all of us? Oh, man. One EU official came out with a statement and admitted that the trade deal had nothing to really do with trade. It's all about keeping the U.S. invested militarily in the European Union and in NATO. This is an admission from one of the top EU officials. By the way, Ursula, when she was asked to comment on the trade deal, she said 15% is not to be underestimated, but it is the best we could get. It is the best we can get, is what Ursula said. So the EU trade chief, Maros Sefcovic, said that this trade deal is clearly the best deal we could get under very difficult circumstances. Now, that being that you are a vassal to the other side. So if you're a vassal to the other side, you can't really enter into negotiations, can you? But he went on to say, it's not only about trade, it's about security. It's about Ukraine. It's about current geopolitical volatility, said Šefčovič, indicating that guaranteeing Washington's continued military support for Ukraine and NATO had played a central part in the negotiations and in pushing Brussels to clinch a deal. In other words, the whole trade deal is BS. It's all BS. It's all smoke and mirrors. Who's BSing? I don't know. I don't know if the EU's BSing. I don't know if Trump's BSing. I don't know if both of them are BSing. But basically, this EU official, this trade commissioner, is saying what the deal is really about is NATO, military spending, and keeping the U.S. Invested in Europe, militarily, security-wise, invested in the EU, in Europe, and in NATO. That's what this is about. Keeping the U.S. in. Keeping the U.S. in, keeping Germany down, and keeping Russia out, right? That's the NATO mantra. That's what this deal is about. They were afraid that Trump was thinking about walking away militarily, security-wise from the European Union, from Europe. And they're doing everything in their power to make sure that that the United States and Trump never walks away from NATO and from EU security and from EU military spending. That's where all of the EU kleptocrats make the big money. It's all in the military spending. So the European Union sent a warning to Ukraine, according to Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. The EU Commission has sent Kiev a warning about a possible complete suspension of financial support to Ukraine if it does not completely backtrack from its banning of NABU, of the anti-corruption agency. It has to completely walk away from that idea of taking over, reforming, banning the anti-corruption agency if it does not completely backtrack from that policy and that idea. Then, according to this German publication, all of the EU money to Ukraine will be paused. All of it. Not 1 billion, not 2 billion, but all 50 billion. We're getting reports from Ukraine military officials that the strategy now is to send drones into Russia in order to disrupt the operations of airports. The Kiev Independent put out an article with the title, "It hits their psyche hard. Ukraine's drones throw Russia's airports further into chaos." So a military official interviewed by the Kiev Independent said that this hits the morale of the Russian people. Ivan Stupak, a military commentator and former officer of Ukraine's security services, the SBU, told the Kiev Independent, they're used to seeing the war only through YouTube, so they just turn off YouTube and suddenly it feels like the war is not real. But with what we're doing, we're sending a clear message. The war is very, very real and your comfort lies in our hands. According to the Kiev Independent, in this article, they claim that in July, there was not one day where at least one Russian airport did not have to shut down. Every single day, there was a Russian airport, because of the drones, that had to shut down. So that's the strategy, according to this ex-SBU officer and this ex-military official that Ukraine is now engaging in, to try and disrupt the Russian airports and to try and make life for Russian citizens miserable, to affect their psyche. There is some analysis which is saying that the main purpose of the everyday drone strikes, and there were also drones that were sent into Russia yesterday as well. The purpose of the drones is not so much about disrupting operation of the airports, but what it's really about is preparing the way for the long-range missile strikes. The Taurus missile strikes, just don't call them Taurus missiles. And basically, the drones are trying to find weaknesses in Russia's air defense, and they're probing, and they're looking at various targets for which the don't call them Taurus missiles, German-Ukraine joint venture project missiles are going to be launched into the Russian Federation. So that's the purpose of the drones, to try and probe and look for weaknesses and look for targets for the eventual launching of these long-range missiles. So in some other news, let's walk this way. In some other news, we have reports that there is a ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand, brokered by Malaysia, which is the president of currently the rotating presidency of the ASEAN. And so this ceasefire has been officially brokered, but it has already been broken. But let's wait another day or two. Usually when you get a ceasefire, during the first day or two of the brokered ceasefire, you usually have that ceasefire being broken for various reasons. So usually you need a couple of days to see if the ceasefire holds. But both countries, Cambodia and Thailand, they thanked the United States and they thanked China for helping to broker this ceasefire. China has not said much about how it has helped to broker the ceasefire, nor has it posted on X or Truth Social official statements from the Chinese government or Xi Jinping saying that he helped broker a ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand. It's very quiet. Didn't say anything, but it was thanked by Thailand and Cambodia for helping to broker the ceasefire. The Trump administration has taken the other approach, and they have come out and claimed full credit for helping to broker the ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia. So two different foreign policy approaches there, but both countries helped to broker this ceasefire. So I want to see if I can cross over to the river. I don't even know if I'm going to have any sidewalk left, to be quite honest. I don't even have a sidewalk. I'm thinking about crossing over. I can't even walk. All right, we're going to have to go back. So before we get to Clown World, we have one more story, once again from Politico, but this story has been picked up by a bunch of media outlets. It has to do with the European scheme, and they're calling it a scheme, for countries, for EU member states to take a loan and purchase weapons and then give those weapons to Zelensky and to Project Ukraine. European countries to borrow billions from the EU to rearm Ukraine. Governments can decide to ask for cheap loans from the EU before Tuesday's deadline. Today is the deadline. So the way the scheme works, and they are calling it a scheme, that is what they're calling this plan. They're calling it a weapons scheme. Interesting choice of words, admitting that this is a scheme. Maybe they mean scam, but they're saying scheme. So the way this works is that countries in the EU will be able to take out loans from the EU, so member states. For example, the countries that have said that they are interested in doing this, Finland, Denmark, Estonia, Lithuania, and Slovakia are considering taking up the loans, several diplomats told Politico, while Poland, the Czech Republic, Latvia, Bulgaria, and Greece confirmed they will do so. France is also likely to apply for the loans, while Germany, Sweden, and the Netherlands are expected to decline, according to people familiar with those governments' plans. Slovakia, interesting. Interesting that Slovakia is thinking of taking part in this loan scheme. Take out a loan from the EU and then use that money to purchase weapons and then give those weapons over to Project Ukraine. That's the scheme. That's the scam. The scam. Put your country into debt and hand over the weapons to Zelensky. Man. Slovakia, what are you doing? What are you doing? The other countries I'm not surprised about. I completely expect them to take part in these types of schemes. Anyway, that's the latest and greatest EU scheme to get money to Zelensky, money and weapons to Zelensky, and to put EU member states into debt. Yep, let's get those EU member states into debt while getting weapons to Project Ukraine, right? And so we can do a clown world and wrap this video up. And today's clown world, let's see here. It was interesting that he received Stmer. Trump received Stmer at one of his golf properties. It's usually the other way around, but you know, Trump was making sure that Stmer and all of Europe understood who's the master and who's the subordinate, right? So yeah, he received Stmer. Trump received Stmer. That was weird, very weird. And then Trump bashed Sadi Khan, the mayor of London, like to Stmer's face. He was bashing Sadi Khan. Stmer said that he likes Sadi Khan; they're friends. But Trump was like, I don't like that guy. So that was also bizarre. But that's it. I don't have anything else. Oh man, that's it. Yeah. I wonder if Trump got such a big ego boost from pretend subjugating the EU that he decided to make it 50 days. He decided to amend it from 50 days to 10 to 12 days. I wonder if Trump was feeling very, very big and bold and tough, that he said, you know what, I can control the European Union, get them to do whatever I want, so why not try the same with Putin and Russia and China and Xi Jinping and India and Brazil? Why not try it with them as well? Anyway, Lindsey Graham and Zelensky, they posted on X yesterday a reply to the same Rapid Response 47 video where Trump is announcing the change of the ultimatum from 50 to 10 days. They both replied to the same exact video on X. I wonder what kind of coordination is taking place between Lindsey and Zelensky, huh? They probably have the same script writers. They definitely have the same script writers and PR team. I wouldn't be surprised if the people that are writing Lindsey Graham's posts on X are the same people that are writing Zelensky's posts on X. The same exact video and the same exact message from the account of Rapid Response, both Lindsey Graham and Zelensky. Anyway, that's it for today. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble and Odyssey and X, and go to the Duran shop. Pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. There's a link in the description box down below. Take care.